I watched my parents fund my sister's entire life, even her first house. When they asked if I was happy for her, I finally lost it. But they said I was being dramatic and that I should have just asked. I'm 33 years old. I work in operations for a distribution company. Nothing glamorous, but it pays well, and I'm good at it. I've been there for 8 years, worked my way up from a floor associate to operations coordinator. I own my house, drive a paid-off truck, and I've never asked anyone for a cent. Not because I'm too proud, but because nobody ever offered. Let me explain my family real quick. My parents, Rick and Diane, have 2 kids, me and my younger sister, Kelsey. Kelsey is 29. Growing up, Kelsey was the sun and the rest of us were just planets orbiting around her. And look, I'm not saying this with bitterness. I used to be bitter about it for years. But at some point, you either make peace with it or you let it eat you. And I chose to make peace. Or I thought I did. Kelsey was smart. She was straight A's, honor roll, played violin, did speech and debate, volunteered at the animal shelter, the full golden child resume. My parents put her in private music lessons starting in 3rd grade. They drove her to debate tournaments 3 states away. They paid for SAT prep courses, college application coaches, and a private college that cost about $42,000 a year. They took out loans. They refinanced the house. For Kelsey and me, I was fine. That's what they always said. Nate's fine. Nate does not need anything. Nate handles himself, which was true technically. I was a B student, played baseball in high school. Pretty good. Not great. I worked at a hardware store after school from the time I was 15. Bought my own car at 17. Paid for community college myself. Transferred to state school. Graduated with minimal debt because I worked full-time while taking classes. Nobody drove me to tournaments. Nobody hired me a coach. Nobody refinanced anything. And I was fine. I want to be careful here because I do not want to make it sound like my parents were terrible. They were not. Or they showed up to my games sometimes. They said they were proud sometimes. My dad taught me to change oil and fix a running toilet. My mom helped me move into my first apartment. They're not monsters. They just have a clear, undeniable, mathematically provable favorite. And it's not me. Quick example that still bugs me. When Kelsey graduated from her private college, my parents threw a party, rented out a restaurant, invited 60 people, custom cake. My mom made a slideshow. When I graduated from state school, summa cum laude by the way, which they never mention, my dad shook my hand and said, "Good job, bud." That was it. No party, no slideshow. Good job, bud. I could give you 50 more examples. The time Kelsey wanted to study abroad in Italy, and my parents found a way to make it happen. $7,000 they did not have. The time I wanted to attend a 2-week baseball camp that cost $600, and my dad said, "We just do not have it right now, bud." That same summer, Kelsey got a new violin. I do not know what it cost, but it came in a case that looked like it belonged to a secret agent, or the time I told my parents I got into state school with a scholarship that covered half my tuition. My mom said, "That's great, honey." And in the same breath started talking about Kelsey's sorority rush. I sat there holding my acceptance letter like a receipt nobody asked for. My dad eventually noticed and said, "We should celebrate. How about pizza this weekend? We never got that pizza." Kelsey had a debate tournament that Saturday, and they drove her to Indianapolis. The thing that really crystallized it for me was when I was 26. I'd just gotten my first real promotion from floor associate to shift lead. It came with a raise and a new title. I was excited. I called my parents. My mom answered and I told her the news. She said, "Oh, that's nice. Hey, quick question. Do you still have that air mattress? Kelsey's friend is visiting and they need somewhere to sleep." I gave them the air mattress. I never brought up the promotion again. I learned something from all of this. I learned that being the invisible kid teaches you to be self-sufficient in ways that the favored kid never learns. I know how to budget because nobody was going to bail me out. I know how to work because nobody was going to pay my way. I know how to be alone because nobody was going to prioritize me. These are not complaints, they're facts, and they made me who I am. But that does not mean they did not hurt. Anyway, let's fast forward to the dinner. 3 years ago, I bought my house. It's a 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I saved for the down payment for 4 years. Lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, drove my old truck, packed lunches every day, said no to vacations. When I finally closed, I was proud, genuinely proud. I called my parents to tell them. My mom said, "That's wonderful, honey. Kelsey just got a promotion. Did you hear?" I said, "Congratulations to Kelsey." And that was the extent of the celebration. Nobody offered to help with the down payment. Nobody offered furniture. Nobody even came to see the house for 2 months. When they finally visited, my mom spent most of the time talking about how Kelsey's apartment had better natural light. I made a mental note of that and filed it in the drawer in my brain labeled things that hurt but are not worth bringing up. So the dinner, this was 3 weeks ago. Weekly family dinner at my parents' house, which we've been doing on and off for about a year. It was my mom's idea. She said she wanted the family to be closer. I go because it's an hour out of my week and sometimes my mom makes good pot roast. Her pot roast is legitimately great. That's the one thing I'll give her credit for without reservation. This particular dinner felt different from the start. My mom had set the table with the good plates, the ones she only uses for holidays and when the neighbors come over. There were candles. My dad was wearing a collared shirt, which is unusual for a Tuesday. Kelsey was there with her boyfriend Bryce, who was fine. He's an accountant. He wears khakis a lot. That's about all I know about Bryce. Dinner started normal. We talked about work. My dad asked Bryce about tax season. My mom talked about her garden. She's been growing tomatoes that are not doing well, but she's emotionally committed to them at this point. I mentioned I'd gotten a good performance review and was in line for a raise. My mom said, "That's nice." My dad nodded. We moved on. Then Kelsey cleared her throat. She said she and Bryce had been looking at houses. They'd found one they loved, a 4-bedroom colonial, in a neighborhood on the other side of town, listed at $380,000. She was excited. Bryce was nodding along like he'd rehearsed his supporting role. My parents were beaming, like physically glowing. My dad had this expression I recognized from Kelsey's graduation party, the "my daughter is exceptional" and "I need everyone to know" face. And then my mom reached under the table and pulled out an envelope. I knew what it was before she opened it. I could feel it in my chest, that thing where your body figures out what's happening before your brain does. She handed the envelope to Kelsey and said, "Daddy and I want to help you start this chapter." Kelsey opened it. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Bryce. Bryce looked at the check. Kelsey started tearing up and said, "Mom, this is $15,000. My mom was crying too. My dad put his arm around my mom and said, "We're so proud of you, sweetheart. $15,000. I sat there. I did not move. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, like I was watching a scene from someone else's life, except it was my life. And I'd been watching this exact scene in different forms for 33 years. Let me be clear about what $15,000 means in context. 3 years ago, I scraped together $22,000 for my down payment. 4 years of saving packed lunches, skipped trips, drove a truck with 200,000 biaras on it. And my parents did not offer a single dollar. Not even "we'd love to help, but we cannot." Nothing. It was not a conversation that happened. I bought my house entirely alone. And now Kelsey, who makes good money, whose boyfriend is an accountant, who has had every advantage handed to her since kindergarten, gets 15 grand because she found a house she loved. I watched this whole scene unfold from my chair, and something happened in my body that I can only describe as a pressure valve failing. You know how in old buildings there's a pipe somewhere that's been holding pressure for years, and everyone just assumes it's fine because it's never leaked? That pipe was me. And the $15,000 check was the thing that finally cracked the seal. It was not even about the money. I need to be clear about that. If my parents had given me 15 grand when I bought my house, and then given Kelsey 15 grand, now I'd have been thrilled, equal treatment, fair, done. But that's not what happened. What happened is, they watched me struggle for 4 years to save a down payment, said nothing, did nothing, and then turned around and handed my sister a check with tears of joy like they were awarding her the Nobel Prize in being their favorite. I do not know how long I sat there silently. It felt like 5 minutes. It was probably 30 seconds. Kelsey was hugging my mom. Bryce was shaking my dad's hand. My mom was wiping her eyes. And nobody looked at me. Not once. That's the part that broke something, not the check. The check was just money. What broke me was the complete unconscious eraser. Like I was not in the room. Like my reaction did not matter because I was never part of this equation. I was furniture. I was the chair at the table that happened to have a person in it. And I know what you're thinking. Just talk to them about it later. Do not make a scene. And yeah, that's probably the mature thing to do. That's probably what a well-adjusted, emotionally intelligent adult would do. But here's the thing. I've been the well-adjusted one my entire life. I've swallowed every slight, filed every hurt in that drawer. Nodded along while Kelsey got the spotlight and I got, "That's nice." For 33 years, I've been the low-maintenance kid, the easy one, the one who's fine. I was not fine. My mom noticed I'd been quiet and said, "Nate, are not you happy for your sister?" And I looked at her. I looked at her for a long time, and I said, And I can remember every word because I've replayed it in my head 100 times since. Happy for her, yeah, Mom. I'm happy for her. I'm always happy for her. I was happy when you threw her a graduation party at a restaurant while Dad shook my hand in the driveway. I was happy when you drove her to tournaments while I took the bus to my games. I was happy when you refinanced the house to pay for her college while I worked 40 hours a week to pay for mine. And now I get to be happy that she's getting $15,000 for a house when you did not give me a dime for mine. I am just overflowing with happiness right now. The table went dead silent. My mom's face crumbled. My dad's jaw clenched. That thing he does when he's angry but does not want to show it. Kelsey looked at me with wide eyes. Bryce studied his fork like it contained the answers to the universe and possibly an escape route. My dad was the first to speak. He said, "Nate, do not do this. Not tonight. This is Kelsey's moment." I said, "It's always Kelsey's moment, Dad. That's the whole problem." The room kind of froze. You know that feeling when everyone in a room holds their breath at the same time? That's what happened. Even Bryce, who normally has the emotional range of a filing cabinet, looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall above the kitchen sink. I could hear my mom's cat Gerald scratching at the back door. Yes, they have a cat named Gerald. Kelsey named him. They thought it was adorable. My mom started crying, full crying. She said, "I do not understand where this is coming from. We've always treated you both the same." And I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because sometimes the lie is so big that the only response your body can produce is laughter. We've always treated you both the same. 20 years of evidence to the contrary sitting in a drawer in my brain, and she actually believes that. I said, "Mom, you have not treated us the same. You've never treated us the same. And the worst part is, you do not even see it. You genuinely do not see it. I've been the easy kid my whole life because I stopped asking for things I knew I would not get. That's not being easy. That's giving up." Kelsey finally spoke. She said, "Nate, I did not ask for this. I told her I knew and I meant it. It's not Kelsey's fault our parents have a favorite. She did not design this system. She just benefited from it the same way I did not design it. I just absorbed it. But here's what got me." She said, "Nate, I did not ask for this." And then she paused and added, "Maybe you should have just asked them for help when you bought your house. Just asked like it's that simple. Like the kid who never got the party, never got the coach, never got the restaurant, never got the check, was supposed to raise his hand and go, 'Excuse me, may I please have some of what she's having?' That's not how it works when you've been trained your entire life to expect nothing. You do not ask because you've learned that asking gets you. That's nice and a subject change." I stood up. I put my napkin on the table. I said, "I love you guys, all of you, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is normal." And I walked out. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door, the same hook I'd been using since I was 12, and I left. I did not slam the door. I did not look back. I just walked to my truck, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway that I'd pulled in and out of 10,000 times before. But this time it felt different, like I was leaving a building I'd been trapped in for a long time and finally found the exit. I drove home, sat in my driveway for a while, looked at my house, the house I bought by myself, the house nobody helped me buy, and nobody congratulated me for buying, and nobody came to see for 2 months. And I thought, this house is mine. I did this. Nobody handed me an envelope. The drive home was weird. I was shaking a little, not from anger, from the adrenaline of finally saying something. My whole body was buzzing. I pulled over twice because I could not focus on driving. I sat in a gas station parking lot for about 15 minutes, just breathing and staring at the dashboard. The truck smelled like my mom's pot roast because she'd given me a container of leftovers as I walked in. Before the check, before everything went sideways, I still had the container on the passenger seat. I ate the pot roast when I got home. It was delicious. Even when your mom breaks your heart, her pot roast still hits. My buddy Connor from work texted me around 10 p.m., asking if I wanted to watch the game that weekend. I typed out a long message about what happened and then deleted it. Was not ready to talk about it yet. Just said, "Yeah, sounds good." That night I got 3 texts from Kelsey. "I'm sorry you feel that way. I love you." I did not respond from my mom. "You ruined a beautiful evening. I hope you'll apologize to your sister." I did not respond from my dad. "That was dramatic, Nate. You need to calm down." I did not respond. I stared at those 3 texts for a long time. Read them over and over. I even screenshotted them and sent them to my buddy Connor the next day with no context. He called me immediately and said, "What happened?" I told him. He said, "Dude, your mom told you to apologize to your sister for being upset that they gave your sister money they never gave you." I said, "Yeah." He was quiet for about 5 seconds and then said, "I'd have flipped the table." I told him I considered it, but the table was too heavy. It was not. I just did not want to ruin the pot roast. Priorities, 3 texts. And in 3 texts, they told me everything I needed to know. Kelsey's sorry I feel that way. Not sorry for the disparity. My mom thinks I ruined things. Not that the situation was unfair. My dad thinks I'm being dramatic after 33 years of being the least dramatic person in the family. I went about a week without talking to any of them. It was the longest I'd gone without contact since I moved out at 20. And it was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, more like the quiet after an argument where nobody knows who's supposed to call first. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner. I watched TV. I mowed the lawn on Saturday morning because that's what I do on Saturdays. I lived my normal life while my family was apparently imploding behind the scenes. I found out later from Aunt Patty that the week after the dinner was chaos on their end. My mom was crying daily. My dad was processing by retreating into the garage and working on projects. He's building a set of bookshelves for the den. Has been building them for 3 years. They'll probably never be finished. Kelsey had gone quiet too. Bryce apparently told his parents about what happened at the dinner, and his mom said, "That's exactly why I told you to always carry your own financial weight in a relationship." Bryce did not relay this comment to Kelsey. During that week, my mom's sister Patty called me. She said my mom was devastated and could not understand why I was upset. I told Aunt Patty the story, all of it. The graduation party versus the handshake, the college payment versus working full-time, the house check versus nothing. Aunt Patty was quiet for a long time. And then she said, "Nate, I've been watching this for years, and I've been wanting to say something, but it was not my place." She told me she was proud of me. She also said something that stuck. "Your parents love you, but they admire Kelsey, and they've confused the two." That hit me like a truck. Admire versus love. 2 different things that most people confuse. They love me because I'm their son, but they admire Kelsey. They see themselves in her. They're impressed by her. They invest in her because she reflects well on them. I'm not a reflection, I'm just there. Reliable, low maintenance. Fine. She just explained 33 years of favoritism in 1 sentence. And the thing is, she's been watching it happen the whole time. Everybody saw it, the neighbors saw it, the extended family saw it. The only people who did not see it were Rick and Diane. Because when you're the ones holding the spotlight, you never notice who's standing in the dark. Nate's been in the dark his whole life and he just flipped the switch, whether his parents can handle the light that's on them. A week and a half after the dinner, my mom showed up at my house, unannounced. She brought banana bread, which felt like a peace offering. It's always banana bread with moms. What is that? We sat at my kitchen table, the table I bought at a thrift store when I first moved in, and refinished myself over a weekend with sandpaper and polyurethane. I got on sale at the hardware store where I used to work as a teenager. Everything in my house has a story like that. The bookshelf was a Craigslist find, the couch was from a coworker who was moving, the kitchen faucet I installed myself after watching a video online. I built this life piece by piece, dollar by dollar. I think that's why the check hit so hard. It was not just money. It was the reminder that some people get pieces handed to them while other people have to scavenge. My mom looked around the kitchen like she was seeing it for the first time. Maybe she was. She started talking about how hurt she was, about how she never meant to play favorites, about how she and my dad had just been trying to help Kelsey get on her feet. I let her talk. I did not interrupt. When she was done, I said this. "Mom, did you help me get on my feet?" She paused. She said, "You did not need help, Nate. You were always so independent." I said, "Mom, I was not independent. I was ignored. There's a difference. I became independent because I had to be, not because I wanted to be. Every time I needed something, Kelsey needed it more. Every time I achieved something, Kelsey's achievement was bigger. So I stopped needing, and I stopped telling you when I achieved things. And you guys stopped noticing." She cried. We sat there for a long time. She did not argue, which is the only reason I think there's hope. If she'd argued, I would have known she still did not get it. But the silence, the long, uncomfortable years overdue silence that told me she was finally hearing it. She left after about an hour. At the door, she hugged me and said, "I'm going to do better, Nate." I said, "I hope so." Final update. That was 3 weeks ago. I want to add one thing about the aftermath that happened between Mom's visit and the next family dinner. I was at the grocery store Tuesday evening doing my usual shop, And I ran into a family friend, Mrs. Keller, who goes to the same church as my parents. She grabbed my arm in the cereal aisle and said, "Nate, I heard about what happened. Your mother told me you had an outburst at dinner." I said, "Did she tell you what the outburst was about?" Mrs. Keller paused. She said you were upset about a gift. I said she gave Kelsey $15,000 for a house after giving me nothing when I bought mine. Mrs. Keller's face changed. She said, "Oh." Then she said, "Oh, Nate." And she hugged me in the cereal aisle. I was not expecting that. It was the first time an adult in my parents' circle had acknowledged what I'd been feeling. In a grocery store next to the Cheerios. Life is weird sometimes. We've had one family dinner since. It was awkward. Nobody mentioned the check, the house, or the dinner. Kelsey and I made small talk about a show we both watch. Bryce talked about taxes. My dad asked about my truck. It felt like a first date between people who've known each other for 3 decades. But there were small things. My mom asked about my raise. She asked how the house was doing, if I needed help with anything. She asked about my vegetable garden, which I'd mentioned once in passing months ago and did not think she'd registered. She remembered, or she's trying to remember now. Either way, it's something. She also offered to bring over some of her tomato plants, the ones from her garden that are not doing well. I said, "Sure, we're going to have bad tomatoes together. It's not a rented restaurant or a custom cake, but it's a start." And for the first time in 33 years, it feels like she's trying to see me. Not just love me from a distance, but actually see me. I'll take bad tomatoes over invisibility any day of the week. Oh, one random thing. Bryce sent me a text last week. Just him, not from Kelsey. It said, "Hey Nate, just wanted to say, I respect what you did. That took guts. I did not expect that from Bryce. Told you the accountant is full of surprises." Kelsey and I have not talked about it privately. I think she's processing. I do not blame her. Finding out you're the favorite is not as easy as it sounds. It comes with its own guilt. I think she's a good person who grew up in a system that was not fair and did not know it was not fair until someone said it out loud. I do not hate her. I never did. I hated the disparity. And now that it's been named, maybe it can start to change. My dad and I had a separate conversation about a week after Mom's visit. He came by under the pretense of checking my furnace filter. He does that sometimes, dad stuff. We stood in the basement and he said, "Your mom told me what you said about feeling ignored." I said, "Yeah." He was quiet for a while, fiddled with the filter. Then he said, "I did not know it was that bad, Nate. I thought you were always so..." He trailed off. I said, "I was always so what?" He said, "You were always so okay with everything." And I said, "Dad, I was not okay. I just stopped telling you." That one landed. I could see it. He did not say anything else about it. He put the new filter in, checked the water heater, and said the house was in good shape. Then, as he was leaving, he stopped at the door and said, "For what it's worth, your house is better than anything I could have built at your age. You did good, Nate." He did not say Bud. He said Nate. Small things, big things. I still have my house, still have my truck, still packing lunches most days. Old habits, still nobody's favorite. But I'm not fine anymore. I'm honest. And honestly, that feels better. I spent 33 years being the easy kid, and all it got me was invisibility. Being the honest kid is harder. It's messier. People cry at dinner tables and send you disappointed text messages, but at least they see you. And being seen even when it's uncomfortable, that's better than being fine. I've been spending more time on the house lately. Fixed a squeaky step on the front porch last weekend. Put up a new mailbox, one of those nice cast aluminum ones. Planted some hosta along the walkway because my coworker said they're impossible to kill, which sounded like my kind of plant. Every improvement I make, I think I did this. Nobody funded this. Nobody handed me an envelope, and it's mine. Kelsey and Bryce are still house hunting, by the way. I hope they find something good. I mean that. Having your own place changes something in you, even if you had to fight for it. Especially if you had to fight for it. Would you have said something at the dinner, or would you have pulled your parents aside privately? Part of me wonders if I should have waited. But honestly, Thursday was the night. No, it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday, and 33 years of waiting was enough.